It all began to unravel 3 months before I was supposed to get married. My fiancée, in a misguided attempt to keep her affair a secret while placating her new lover, came up with a plan she thought was foolproof. She would have her identical twin sister take her place with me. From that point on, every time I thought I was meeting with my fiancée, Chloe, it was actually her sister Clara who appeared. I discovered the truth almost immediately, but I decided not to say anything. Instead, I continued with the wedding preparations as if nothing was wrong, playing my part with complete dedication. This charade continued until 1 week before the wedding, when Chloe, finally back in town, slammed me against my own front door, her body trembling with a mixture of confusion and rage. "Leo, why is my sister's name on the wedding invitation?" she demanded, her voice strained. "There's still time. You can change it back." I offered a small, calm smile. "Why would I do that? For the past 3 months, it's been your sister I've been with, not you." The evening had started like many others over the past few months. After finishing a late meeting with a group of clients, I sent a text to the number I had from my fiancée. "I'm at the Rosewood Grill. Had a bit too much to drink. Could you come get me?" The response was almost instantaneous. "Of course, darling. I'll be there in a few minutes." I switched off my phone's screen, leaning back into the plush leather of the restaurant booth. A faint smile touched my lips as I idly spun my phone on the table, waiting. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, a familiar red sports car pulled up to the curb outside. I slid into the passenger seat, the scent of her subtle perfume filling the small space. Without a word, the woman beside me handed me a thermos cup filled with warm honey water. "Drink this," she said softly. "It should help with the hangover. I don't want you waking up with a headache tomorrow." I accepted it, taking a moment to play up my supposed intoxication. I propped my head up with one hand, giving her a bright, appreciative smile, while my other hand deliberately brushed against hers as I took the cup. "Thank you, my love. You're always so thoughtful," I said, my voice gentle. Her eyes, which held a depth I'd come to recognize, flickered toward me for a moment before she turned her attention back to the road and started the car. I settled back into my seat, content, and watched her profile as we drove. The passing streetlights illuminated her delicate features, her long eyelashes casting faint shadows on her cheeks. She was beautiful, captivating in a quiet, understated way that I was growing to appreciate more and more. Of course, I knew perfectly well that this woman was not my fiancée, Chloe. She was Clara, Chloe's identical twin sister. My relationship with Chloe had been straightforward. We were a good match on paper, moved in the same social circles, and our families approved. I've always had a preference for a certain kind of beauty, and Chloe's appearance fit my tastes exactly. We fell in love, or something like it, got engaged, and even had our wedding photos taken. The date was set for 3 months down the line. I had given Chloe a great deal of trust, never feeling the need to monitor her calls or question where she was going. Despite this freedom, she had still managed to find herself a young, passionate college student to have an affair with. He was apparently the volatile type, quick to anger and threaten to end things, which was exactly the kind of drama Chloe seemed to thrive on. To soothe him and keep me from discovering her infidelity, she devised her grand plan. She would have Clara impersonate her. When I first figured it out, I wasn't particularly angry. Mostly I was struck by how absurdly foolish Chloe was. It seemed her judgment had completely dissolved the moment she started cheating. Perhaps other people couldn't tell the twins apart, but for me, the differences were obvious. Chloe was loud, energetic, and always the center of attention, while Clara was calm, observant, and reserved. I found the situation more interesting than infuriating, so I decided to let the deception continue. For the last several weeks, Every time I had arranged to see Chloe, it was Clara who arrived. They had the same face, which I found pleasing, but Clara's eyes held a world of complex, unspoken emotions that I found deeply intriguing. She was incredibly kind to me, always agreeing to my requests without hesitation. When I once had a sudden, ridiculous urge to go to the beach in the middle of the night, she simply got her keys and drove. No questions asked. However, every time I would call her by Chloe's name, a shadow would pass over her face, and she would look down, remaining silent. I was almost certain she had feelings for me, feelings she had probably been suppressing for a long time, held back by the fact that I was engaged to her sister. Now, though, I was beginning to think that the bride's name on our wedding invitations could easily be changed. Why should I settle for the one who had so carelessly thrown our relationship away when someone so much better was right here in front of me? When we arrived back at her apartment, which had become our usual meeting place, I casually tossed my suit jacket onto the sofa and stumbled theatrically. Clara, who was keeping a polite distance, instinctively reached out to steady me. With a soft exclamation, I allowed myself to fall directly into her arms, letting her embrace support my weight. A quiet chuckle escaped me as I let my fingers trail gently from her waist up toward her chest. Her hand shot out and seized my wrist. "Leo, stop playing around," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "Is this what you call playing around?" I murmured, my voice low. "Because I was planning on sleeping with you tonight." I tightened my arms around her slim waist, pulling her flush against me until there was no space left between our bodies. My gaze moved from her deep, searching eyes down to her lips. They were thin and naturally red, and I imagined they would be softer and far more satisfying to kiss than her sister's. Clara turned her head away, avoiding my stare. "Leo, you're drunk." "No, I'm not. I'm perfectly sober," I replied, giving her no chance to protest further as I leaned in and captured her lips with mine. Her eyes widened in shock, and her hands, which were resting on my waist, tightened their grip. "You see," I whispered against her mouth. "There's no use pretending. You've wanted this just as much as I have." The kiss deepened, becoming more passionate and demanding. I tugged at the scarf around her neck, letting it fall to the floor as I guided her stumbling steps toward the bedroom. With one smooth motion, I pushed her onto the bed, following her down and pressing my body against hers, kissing her with an unrestrained hunger, moving from her lips to the soft skin of her neck. Her body responded to mine, the initial tension melting away. As my fingers moved to the third button on her blouse, she suddenly caught my wrist. Clara pushed back just enough to create an inch of space between us, her breathing unsteady. "Leo, no," she whispered, her brow furrowed. "I'm not." "Clara," I said, speaking her real name for the first time. She froze completely, her breath catching in her throat as her entire body went rigid. It was an endearing reaction, so much more genuine than anything her sister had ever shown me. I propped myself up on her chest, pinning her legs with one of mine, and gently traced the outline of her lips with my fingertip. "Clara, if I changed the bride's name on the invitations to yours, would you marry me?" She was silent for a long moment, and when she finally spoke, her voice was hoarse. "You knew that I'm not Chloe?" I chuckled softly and placed a gentle kiss on the corner of her mouth. "Of course. I knew from the very first day. But I'm asking you a serious question. Would you be willing?" I waited patiently for a minute. Finally, she asked, "You wouldn't regret it?" I blinked, feigning innocence. "Not for a second. But you should think about it carefully. If you say no, will you regret it?" Clara pressed her lips together, her mind clearly racing. While I awaited her answer, my fingers resumed their task. Just as I finished unbuttoning her shirt, she moved with surprising force, flipping me onto my back and pressing down on me, her shadow enveloping my body. Her kisses turned fierce, and her skin felt hot against mine, as if she were burning with a pent-up fever. "Tomorrow," she breathed against my lips, "we're going to retake our wedding photos." That night, Clara's passion was a revelation. It was hard to believe this was the same woman who was always so composed, who would maintain a careful, polite distance whenever we walked together. Once that barrier was broken, she was a force of nature, as if she wanted to consume every part of me. I found that I loved this untamed side of her, the raw passion that contrasted so sharply with her usually calm demeanor. The way her hair clung to her damp skin was incredibly alluring, and I found myself enjoying the experience more than I ever had before. The photo reshoot was scheduled for that weekend. While Clara was having her solo portraits taken, I found myself playing with her phone and happened to see Chloe's latest social media posts. She had uploaded a collage of pictures featuring her and some guy, bungee jumping, hang gliding, and whitewater rafting. The caption read, "Life is meant for adventures with the one you love." The irony was staggering. Here she was, an engaged woman, off seeking thrills with another man. I casually liked the post from Clara's account while I lounged in a nearby chair. Almost instantly, a message from Chloe popped up. "Did everything go okay last night?" Leo didn't suspect anything, did he? It was almost funny how she could be in another man's arms and still have me on her mind. I slowly typed out a reply. "Nah. Thanks. I knew I could count on you," she wrote back. "I'm going to stay here and have fun for another month or two. If Leo asks, just cover for me." "No problem," I typed, a wry smile on my face. Covering for her was the least of my concerns. I was already planning on covering for her at our wedding. Just then, a shadow fell over me. "What are you looking at that's making you so happy?" I looked up to meet Clara's curious gaze. "Oh, nothing important," I said, holding up the phone. "Just looking at some cute dog pictures." I handed the phone back to her. She glanced at the screen, saw the conversation with her sister, and then shot me a knowing look. I brought a finger to my lips, signaling for her to keep quiet. Going along with Chloe's ridiculous scheme was proving to be quite entertaining. Clara understood immediately. She raised an eyebrow and leaned down close to my ear. "And what will my reward be for playing along?" she whispered. I smiled brightly, leaned back in my chair, and gave her a minute-long kiss as her reward. Clara took charge of all the wedding planning with meticulous attention to detail. She was involved in every decision, from the venue to the floral arrangements, spotting potential problems and resolving them before they could arise. With her managing everything, I didn't have a single worry. Since we had decided to be together, I had moved in with her. It seemed logical to start enjoying the benefits of our relationship as soon as possible. As for Chloe, we had almost no contact, though I still saw her constant updates and overly sentimental love quotes on Clara's social media feed. Her posts, all carefully hidden from my own accounts, were filled with a sappy, over-the-top romanticism. One evening, after I had showered and was relaxing in a robe, Chloe called. She wasn't calling for me, however, but for her sister. Clara answered and put the phone on speaker. "Is everything going smoothly over there?" Chloe asked. "Yes, everything's fine," Clara replied. "What's Leo been up to?" Clara cast a playful glance in my direction. "Missing him? You could always call him yourself." "I'm just worried you'll slip up around him and give me away," Chloe said dismissively. "I'm not coming back anytime soon. I promised Ethan I would go with him to an art exhibition in Paris." Ethan was the name of her young lover. Paris? How lovely, I mouthed silently, pulling Clara down onto my lap. Her eyes darkened slightly as she tried to maintain her composure on the phone. Leo's been busy with the wedding preparations, she told her sister. I raised an eyebrow. The only wedding stuff keeping me busy was my effort to win over the woman currently sitting on my lap. That's good, Chloe said, oblivious. With Leo handling things, I know the wedding will be perfect. I'll make it up to him after we're married. Until then, just help me keep this quiet. I will, Clara promised, but her tone suddenly changed as I chose that moment to gently bite her collarbone. What was that? Who are you with? Chloe demanded, her voice sharp with suspicion. Clara shot me a playful glare. It's nothing, she said, trying to sound casual, but I couldn't help but laugh. Your brother-in-law just bit me. On the other end of the line, I heard Chloe's shocked voice. No way! Who is he? You finally found someone? I have to meet him when I get back. Clara grabbed my hand, which had started to wander. When you get back, she said firmly. Chloe tried to ask more questions, but Clara quickly made an excuse and ended the call. She then turned to me and pinched my waist. You're always causing trouble, she said, though her eyes were smiling. I laughed and pressed my lips against hers. You love it when I cause trouble. Look, you're blushing. I teased her, blowing softly on her face as I rested my hand on her stomach. Clara's eyes were smoldering. Everything was proceeding exactly as I had hoped. A few days later, right after I finished a meeting, my phone buzzed with a new friend request. The profile picture was of a young man I recognized from Chloe's social media feed. I suppose someone was getting impatient. Intrigued, I accepted the request. A series of messages came through immediately. Hey, I have some pictures you might be interested in seeing. This was followed by a flood of photos, all of them showing Chloe and this young man, Ethan, in various romantic poses during their travels, hugging, kissing, looking deeply into each other's eyes. You understand what this means, don't you? His next message read. It's better to step aside, gracefully, when you're not the one who's loved. The kid was so young. These were the only kinds of tactics he knew. I decided to play along. I leaned back in my office chair and took a sip of the coffee my assistant had just brought in. These look photoshopped, I typed back. I'm with Chloe all the time. There's no way she would have had time to be with you. Trying to cause trouble isn't going to work. The typing indicator bubbled for a long time. You really think the person who has been with you is Chloe? You're a fool if you can't even recognize your own fiancé. I crossed my legs, completely unbothered. Is that so? Why don't we find out? I dialed Chloe's number. It rang for a long time before she finally answered. Hey, baby, what's up? She said, her voice sounding distant. Chloe, where are you right now? I asked. There was a brief pause on the other end. I'm at work, of course. Why? I calmly explained, I just received a bunch of pictures from some guy showing you on vacation with him. Would you care to explain? There was a dead silence on the line. I could almost hear her panicking. I tapped my fingers on my desk and changed the subject. But I'm sure they're fake. We see each other every day. How could you possibly have time to go to Paris with someone else? Chloe let out a forced, unnatural laugh. Right, babe. Don't believe him. It must be some kind of scam. I can't be in two places at once. I wondered how Ethan, who was probably listening in, felt about that statement. I leaned back in my chair, adopting a relaxed tone. I think you're right. Anyway, I'll let you go. Wait, she said quickly. Did you cancel the wedding planner we booked? Earlier that day, I had canceled all the previous wedding arrangements Chloe and I had made. She must have just received the notifications. Yes, I said. I didn't like the old plans, so I decided to go with something new. Why are you so surprised? You were with me when I did it. She chuckled awkwardly. Sorry, my mistake. I've been so busy with work lately, my head's all jumbled. I teased her gently. Forgetting things like that? I hope you haven't forgotten our wedding date. No way, she replied quickly, then rushed to get off the phone. I have an urgent meeting, I have to go. We'll talk later. Of course, come home early tonight, I said smoothly. I'll make your favorite fish soup. I hung up the phone, feeling quite pleased with myself and humming a little tune. Playing this game with her was surprisingly fun. That evening, Clara was the first to arrive home. I had just set the pot of fish soup on the dining table when she came up behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist in a tight hug. What's this all about? I asked with a smile. Are you trying to suffocate me? She loosened her grip slightly, resting her chin on my shoulder. You called Chloe today, she said, her voice a low murmur. So, I replied, turning in her arms to face her. Are you jealous? A small pout formed on her lips. I'm upset. Seeing her like this, vulnerable and possessive, was irresistible. I wrapped my arms around her waist. Her new boyfriend messaged me today. I thought I'd give Chloe a little scare. Her reaction has been amusing me all day. I tilted my head. Are you really jealous? You, the queen of jealousy? Clara's eyes shimmered in the low light of the kitchen. I leaned down and gave her a playful nibble on her neck. Does that make you feel better? Her grip on me tightened instantly, her breath becoming shaky. Leo, she whispered in my ear. Chloe is coming back next week. So soon? I asked. There's still a month until the wedding. Ethan can't handle it anymore, I suppose, she replied. I squinted, gently scratching under her jawline. What are your plans for when she gets back? Clara nibbled on my earlobe, her voice a soft murmur against my skin. To make sure she attends her sister's wedding as a proper guest. As it turned out, Chloe's return was delayed. According to the story she told Clara, Ethan had suddenly become ill and required medical treatment abroad. He was feeling insecure and needed her by his side, so she asked Clara to cover for her for another month. It made sense. A guy who had managed to hold Chloe's attention for this long was likely skilled at more than just making idle threats. Not that I was the one he should have been worried about anymore. Clara hugged me one night as we were getting ready for bed. Leo, when are you going to tell Chloe the truth? I played with her fingers, interlacing them with mine. Why should I tell her? Won't it be more entertaining to let her figure it out on her own? I'm genuinely curious to see the look on her face when she finally realizes what's happened. It should be quite a show. Clara smiled slyly, tapping the tip of my nose with her finger. You're mischievous, and you like it, don't you? I replied, catching her fingertip and nibbling on it playfully. Later that night, as Clara was drifting off to sleep beside me, her phone buzzed with a new message. It was another recording from Ethan, another attempt to assert his dominance. I pressed play. The recording started with the sound of heavy breathing, followed by Chloe's voice, whispering provocative questions to Ethan. He played along, his youthful voice syrupy and eager. With a sigh, I turned to Clara. My ears have been violated, I said playfully. She cupped her hands over my ears. Then don't listen, it's filth. I grinned. No, this might be the interesting part. I skipped to the end, where they were having an actual conversation. Chloe, Ethan asked, compared to Leo, how am I? Why are you comparing yourself to him? She replied. I just want to know, come on. Fine, she conceded. You're younger, more handsome, and you know all the right things to say. I can't resist you. Are you happy? So you love me? He pressed. Of course, I adore you. I'm madly in love with you and only you forever. Then marry me instead of Leo, he said. Chloe paused. I was also curious to hear her answer. She was the same woman who had once clung to me, promising to treat me like a king. Ethan prodded her again. Chloe finally chuckled softly. Leo and I are a family arrangement. It's what our parents want. I can't go against them. But even if we get married, you'll always be my true love. I'll buy you a house, and I'll visit you, just like I do now. As soon as I get the chance, I'll leave Leo and marry you, my darling. The recording ended. It was so ridiculous I had to laugh. Did Chloe not want to get out of our engagement, or did she feel she couldn't? It was hard to say. When we first got engaged, no one had been happier than her. I turned to Clara and nudged her nose with mine. Did you hear that? If she had played the long game, I might have actually married someone like her. Could you have tolerated that? You used to put up with so much. If you liked me as much as I think you did, how could you have just stood by and watched me marry your sister? Clara gazed at me, her expression intense for a long moment. Then, she pulled me into a fierce embrace. I used to think you were in love with her, she whispered. I rolled my eyes and mumbled into her shoulder. I liked her face. And since you have the same one, I like you too. She squeezed my lower back. So you only like my face? Her hands began to wander. Not wanting to end up exhausted, I quickly silenced her with a series of kisses and guided her hands back to my waist. You, I said softly, I like everything about you. Time seemed to accelerate as the wedding day approached. Ethan began sending me his and Chloe's love stories on a daily basis. Photos, voice notes, videos, everything short of a live stream of their private moments. Recently, his messages had become more frequent. Chloe told me I'm her true love. What's the point of a loveless marriage? You don't want to be with someone whose heart is somewhere else, do you? I watched his desperate attempts with the detached amusement of someone watching a zoo animal. What do you think it means? He would ask. A week before the wedding, Chloe posted a cryptic message on her social media. Even the best days must end. It's time to welcome a new beginning. But some loves and some memories will linger forever. I couldn't have agreed more. The memory of me marrying her sister was certainly one that would never fade for her. That evening, I had a dinner event with a business partner. Dressed in a tailored suit, I was at my most polished. I navigated these functions with practiced ease. At the end of the night, as I was leaving the hotel, I saw a woman leaning against the sports car parked near the entrance. I paused, observing her. It had been 3 months since I had last seen her in person. She was tanner and looked slightly heavier, less refined. She was a pale comparison to her sister. Seeing me in my suit seemed to startle Chloe, and a flicker of surprise crossed her face. She quickly composed herself, smoothed down her dress, and walked toward me, arms open for an embrace. Leo. I took a subtle step to the side, letting her arms close on empty air. I looked her up and down. She paused, a puzzled expression on her face. What is it? Why are you looking at me like that? A small smirk played on my lips. Oh, nothing. I just noticed you've changed quite a bit. Chloe's posture stiffened. It's like you took a trip to a remote jungle and came back after a feast. Your dress looks a little tight. Your stomach is definitely more noticeable. She glanced down at herself, a painfully awkward laugh escaping her lips. Oh, really? I guess I've gained a little weight recently. You didn't notice. I chuckled, letting her change the subject. Anyway, let's not talk about that. Leo, you look so handsome tonight. I came to pick you up. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back again. No need. Why not? Someone else is coming for me, I said plainly. Chloe frowned, about to question me further when her phone began to ring. I gestured toward her purse. Aren't you going to get that? It sounds urgent. Torn, she decided to answer the call. I stood with my arms crossed, watching as her expression shifted from composed to increasingly panicked. Is your leg still hurting? How were you so careless? Don't cry, I'll be there in 10 minutes. After hanging up, she turned to me with an apologetic look. Leo, I'm so sorry. A friend of mine got hurt and needs help. I nodded with an air of understanding. Don't worry about it. Go ahead. It's not my concern. Chloe relaxed, a warm smile returning to her face. Leo, marrying you will be the luckiest day of my life. Head home first. I'll come find you as soon as I'm done. She hurried away, and I gave her a casual wave. I hoped she would still be able to smile like that the next time we met. 15 minutes later, I was sitting in the passenger seat of Clara's car, scrolling through Ethan's latest social media updates. He had posted a picture of Chloe holding his hand while a doctor examined his leg. What's so funny? Clara asked, glancing at me as she drove. Oh, nothing, I said, feeling quite content. Just watching some monkeys perform. Clara, have we sent out all of our wedding invitations? As we stopped at a red light, she took my hand, gently massaging my palm. Yes, all of them have been sent, except for Chloe's. The light turned green, and the car started moving again. Let's send hers tonight, I said, and make sure she knows not to wear white. Predictably, my phone began to blow up. It had been ringing non-stop for 10 minutes, but I was far more focused on kissing Clara, letting the chaos on my phone go unanswered. Leo, take a break, she said, pulling away slightly. I have a meeting to prepare for in my study. I looped my arms around her neck and gave her one last kiss. Go ahead. Once Clara had left the room, I stretched my sore back and finally retrieved my phone from the living room. 99 missed calls, over 99 messages from Chloe. I scrolled through them. They were a mix of frantic voice notes and screenshots of the invitation. She was trying to confirm who I was marrying. Upon discovering the truth, she had completely unraveled. I listened to a few of her messages. Leo, this isn't real, is it? It's just a joke, right? This isn't funny at all. I'm coming to find you right now. Why aren't you at your apartment? Did you move? Leo, answer me. Of course, she couldn't find me at my old place. I was living at her sister's now. I couldn't be bothered to listen to the longer messages. Ignoring the rest, I typed back a simple reply. You're invited to my wedding next week. You're welcome to attend. There was no response. Just as I was about to go to sleep, a loud, insistent pounding erupted at the front door. She had found me. I lazily got out of bed, listening to the assault on the door, which was louder than construction work, before calmly opening it. Whether from rage or exhaustion, Chloe was breathing heavily, her lips pressed into a thin line and her eyes bloodshot. You look like your husband just died, I remarked casually. Did you get your friend to the hospital all right? Chloe lunged forward, grabbing my shoulders and pinning me against the door. Her voice was raspy. Leo, why is the bride's name my sister's? It's not too late. You can change it back. I grinned. No, why should I? The person who has been in my bed for the last 3 months is your sister. Chloe's face went pale, and she seemed to forget how to breathe for a moment. I shrugged her hands off my shoulders and adjusted my robe, giving her a sideways glance. Why are you so surprised? Surely you knew it was your sister with me this whole time. Chloe's pupils dilated, and her knuckles turned white as she clenched her fists. You knew? Yes, I said, pushing my hair out of my face. It wasn't hard to figure out. The difference between the two of you is, well, I squinted at her. It's too big to ignore. Chloe's eyes darted around frantically, then settled on a mark on my neck. Suddenly, she became agitated again, grabbing my wrist. Have you and my sister slept together? Isn't it obvious? I rolled my eyes. Of course we have. What do you think we were doing right before you started banging on the door? Chloe's breathing became even more erratic, her grip on my wrist tightening. She gritted her teeth, her expression turning monstrous. Leo, I was with you for 2 years, And you never let me touch you. But my sister pretends to be me for 3 months, and you sleep with her. Why?" I repeated her question with a chuckle. Because I wanted to. My nonchalant attitude only seemed to infuriate her more. Her eyes red with anger, she tried to grab me again, but in the next moment she released my hand and stumbled back. Clara had stepped between us, her face a mask of ice as she faced her sister. "What do you think you're doing?" Chloe steadied herself against the doorframe, her anger finally boiling over. "Clara, Leo is my boyfriend," she yelled, her voice hoarse. "Are you actually trying to steal him from me?" Clara ignored her sister's outburst and turned to me, her expression softening as she checked me over. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. Seeing this, Chloe's face turned an even darker shade of red. "A correction," I said, looking at Chloe. "I'm not your boyfriend anymore. Isn't your actual boyfriend still at the hospital? In 1 week, after the wedding, you'll have to start calling me your brother-in-law. Do you understand? And on the wedding day, please don't wear the wrong color dress, because I'm marrying your sister." Chloe glared at me, speechless. After a tense moment, she opened her mouth to say something, but Clara simply shut the door in her face. The banging on the door resumed, but we ignored it. Clara scooped me up in her arms and carried me to the bedroom. She tucked me into bed, brushing her nose against my ear. "You've got some nerve, opening the door without me here." I squirmed, the sensation tickling me. What was there to be afraid of? It's not like she was going to eat me. Besides, with you here, I'm not afraid of anything. I cupped Clara's face in my hands and kissed her. As our lips met, the pounding on the door finally stopped. When I woke up the next morning, it was nearly noon. Clara had already left for work. I had taken a few days off to relax and focus on the final wedding preparations. Just as I was about to head out for a walk, I opened the front door and saw a shadow lurking in the hallway. I frowned. "Why are you still here?" Chloe was wearing the same clothes as the night before. Her makeup was smudged, and she had dark circles under her eyes. She had clearly been waiting there all night. This morning, Clara must have deliberately left early to avoid her. Chloe was no longer the assertive, angry woman from the previous night. Now she just looked defeated. "Leo, I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I overreacted last night. Can we please talk?" Every word was laced with caution. I leaned against the doorframe. "You can say what you need to right here. I'm not inviting you in." Chloe bit her lip and wiped at her face. "I did a lot of thinking last night, mostly about the good times we had. Do you remember that time a year ago when I took you to White Peak to watch the sunrise? The way you smiled when the sun came up? I'll never forget that. Leo, I know it was wrong of me to have my sister pretend to be me, but I truly love you. I'll break things off with Ethan immediately. You can punish me however you want, but please, just forgive me this one time. After we get married, I promise I'll treat you twice as well." I let out an exaggerated laugh. "You love me? Are you sure about that?" She stepped closer, her voice unwavering. "You are the one I, Chloe, love most in this world." I suppressed another laugh and pulled out my phone, opening my chat with Ethan and playing a voice recording. Everything she had whispered to him just days before echoed clearly in the quiet hallway. Chloe's face froze. When the clip ended, she stared at me in disbelief. "Leo, how do you have that?" "From your favorite little sweetheart," I said. "He sent me quite a few things, even your more private photos. Would you like to see them?" Chloe could never have imagined that Ethan would send everything to me in a desperate attempt to force our breakup. These tokens of their love had now become incriminating evidence against her. The thought of this information going public was clearly enough to leave her utterly dumbfounded. Her expression was priceless. She had tried to play me, but I had turned the tables on her completely. My tone dropped, becoming icy. "Chloe, I'm telling you this one last time. If you dare to bother me again, I will make sure that everyone, your family, your friends, and everyone at your family's company gets a copy of everything Ethan sent me. You know my personality. I always mean what I say. Now get lost." Chloe staggered back, silent for a full minute. Just as I was about to impatiently close the door, she said, "Leo, I'll fix all of this." She turned and walked away, looking utterly dejected. I thought Chloe had finally given up, but I had severely underestimated her shamelessness. When she realized she couldn't win me over, she went straight to my mother, knelt before her, and begged for help. First, she tearfully confessed all of her mistakes and promised it would never happen again. Then, she pleaded with my mother to talk to me and ask me to give her another chance. My father passed away when I was young, and my mother built our family's business from the ground up on her own. She has a very straightforward personality. Her response to Chloe was simple. "This is my son's decision." Her exact words were, "As long as my son is willing, I don't care who he marries. The only reason we agreed to your engagement in the first place was because Leo accepted your proposal. After running wild with another man for so long, what makes you think you still have the right to marry my son?" Chloe was left speechless. Realizing my mother was a dead end, she went to beg her own parents. The Millers, her family, were not known for their strong family bonds. They prioritized business and benefits above all else. Clara must have offered them a significant advantage for them to have kept Chloe in the dark for so long. Marrying me to Clara instead of Chloe didn't hurt their family's interests in the slightest. The two families would still be connected. So, when Chloe knelt before her parents, pleading with them not to let Clara marry me, they simply finished their tea, told her to get some rest, and offered no further words on the matter. Undeterred, Chloe finally tried to see Clara directly, but she couldn't even get a meeting. The company chairman's schedule required an appointment, and not even siblings were an exception. The night before the wedding, Clara swayed with me in her arms as we slow danced in the living room. "Leo," she said softly, "Chloe came to see me again today. She left a message at the front desk, saying she refuses to give up on you, and that she's going to crash the wedding tomorrow." She added, "A lot of people at the company say she's obsessed with you. She's been treated like a princess for so long, she thinks she's the main character in a movie." "Crash the wedding, really?" I turned around and lifted Clara's chin. "If she does crash the wedding, what will you do?" Clara smiled knowingly and pecked the corner of my lips. "She won't get the chance. Now get some sleep. We have an early morning tomorrow. I can't wait to see the most handsome groom in the world." "And I can't wait to see the most beautiful bride," I replied. On the day of the wedding, I was in the dressing room getting ready. Just as I had expected, Chloe showed up, looking for me. However, she couldn't get anywhere near me. Clara had arranged for 2 very capable-looking male bodyguards to protect me, and several female bodyguards to follow Chloe's every move. Chloe couldn't even get close to the dressing room door and could only shout my name from down the hall. "It's so noisy," I commented, straightening my tie. I walked to the doorway, stopping a few feet from her. "What's all the barking about?" Upon seeing me in my wedding suit, Chloe's eyes began to tremble. Then, with a thud, she dropped to her knees. "Leo, I've completely cut things off with Ethan. I truly know I was wrong, and I sincerely want to make amends. We were together for 2 years and made so many wonderful memories. I can't believe that in just 3 months you could fall in love with my sister. I know you must still have feelings for me. If I crash the wedding today, will you leave with me?" Her speech was filled with a desperate sincerity, but everyone present, including the bodyguards, could barely contain their laughter. I glanced down at her slowly, not even wanting to waste words on her, and turned back to my chair. "Get her out of here!" The bodyguards moved to oblige, and Chloe began to struggle fiercely, her face turning beet red. "Let's see who dares to touch me!" But before she could create a bigger scene, A sharp male voice came from around the corner. "Chloe!" Ethan had arrived. The timing was perfect for a final showdown. Ethan looked terrible. His hair was a mess, and his expression was deranged. He immediately began yelling at Chloe, calling her heartless and despicable. Chloe stood up, annoyed. "Have you had your tantrum yet? I told you before I was just playing with you. Leo is the one I truly love. Now get lost and don't ever show your face to me again." Ethan laughed, a bitter, broken sound, as tears streamed down his face. "Chloe, you are such a pathetic fool. What do you think Leo is, some kind of saint? He knew about our relationship a long time ago, but he never said a word. He played both of us, watching you make a fool of yourself every single day, and now you're on your knees begging him to take you back? Where is your dignity? Did a dog eat it?" Chloe ignored him, her eyes fixed on me. "As long as Leo forgives me, I don't care about dignity." "But you told me I was the one you loved the most!" Ethan yelled, losing control. A nearby bodyguard couldn't help but comment, "Women lie all the time, man. You can't believe everything they say." "That's true," another agreed. I had to applaud their insight. Chloe turned to me urgently. "Leo, everything I said today is the truth. You are the one I love. I'm not lying." "Chloe, you jerk," Ethan finally snapped. Suddenly, a woman came running from behind him, holding the hand of a small boy who looked to be about 3 or 4 years old. The woman was crying and shouting, "Chloe, where have you hidden my child's father?" Chloe didn't even look at them, her gaze still locked on me. "No matter who shows up, nothing will change how I feel about you, Leo." Her words suddenly caught in her throat. The female bodyguard blocking her path glanced at her, her mouth forming a silent O. It turned out the woman was Ethan's ex-girlfriend, and the boy was his son. Chloe was shaking all over, staring intently at the child. Her first reaction was not to look at the shattered Ethan and his family, but at me. "Leo, What is it?" I asked calmly. "The man has a child now. Are you still planning on crashing the wedding?" Chloe was breathing rapidly, her brow furrowed. "I won't let this child get in the way of our relationship. I'll have him taken care of." As soon as the words left her mouth, Ethan went berserk and lunged at her. "Chloe, are you even human? That's my child, a living person. You expect me to just abandon him? You monster!" He hit and cursed at her, pulling her hair. The once clean-cut young man had turned into a raving madman. Fed up, Chloe shoved him hard. "Have you had enough?" She didn't hold back, and Ethan stumbled back several steps, crashing into the woman behind him. She lost her balance and fell heavily, her head hitting the tiled floor with a sickening crack. Her face went white, and sweat beaded on her forehead. "My head," she moaned. Blood began to seep from the back of her head, pooling on the floor. She clutched her head, wailing, while the child beside her cried loudly. Chloe was clearly shocked, frozen in place. I decided to offer a helpful reminder. "Why are you just standing there? Aren't you going to take your little fling and his family to the hospital? You should think this through. If that woman is seriously injured, you'll be guilty of intentional harm. There are plenty of witnesses here. You should consider carefully how you want to spend the rest of your life." My words seemed to snap Chloe back to reality. She shot me a defiant look, hesitated for a moment, then clenched her fists and went to help Ethan up. Before she left, she threw one last parting shot over her shoulder. "Leo, wait for me." I seriously began to wonder if, when Chloe and Clara were in the womb, Clara had somehow absorbed all the nutrients, leaving her sister with nothing. Her behavior was truly brainless. What a show! Chloe's dramatic exit didn't actually delay the wedding by much, only about 10 minutes in total. The little episode barely made a dent in our schedule. For our wedding, Clara had ensured that everything was the absolute best the city had to offer. She wanted to announce to the world that her husband, Leo, deserved nothing less than perfection. And I had to admit, I fit the part. The look in her eyes as she stood opposite me at the altar was just as deep and captivating as it had been when we first truly met 3 months ago, but now it was filled with an added layer of joy. My principle in life has always been that if you're going to choose a partner, you should choose the one who makes you the most satisfied. Looking at Clara, I knew I had chosen correctly. Amidst thunderous applause, we exchanged our vows and shared a passionate kiss. Clara caressed my cheek, her eyes unusually bright. It was hard to tell if it was from the reflection of the lights or tears of happiness. Her voice was a little hoarse as she whispered, "Leo, you finally married me. I've finally waited for this day." I gave her a cheeky wink. "Don't celebrate just yet. If you ever pull any stunts, I can leave without a second thought." "That is never going to happen," Clara said, her voice firm, each word a promise. In a corner that no one was paying attention to, 2 bodyguards were restraining a frantic Chloe, who had just managed to rush back in. One held a hand over her mouth to keep her from shouting, while the other pinned her against the wall, immobilizing her completely. She could only watch with wide, defeated eyes as Clara and I kissed, concluding the ceremony. The fight drained out of her, and she finally collapsed, slumping lifelessly to the floor. As I glanced over in her direction, I silently mouthed one final word to her: "Fool."